Have you noticed that a lot of the educational problems that people talk about during this pandemic are actually a part of systemic problems that have been going on for ages? Just mention some of it: lack of communication and guidance, lack of motivation to learn, and even internet and technological problems. What the pandemic did is only amplifying those problems and showing us the urgency of these problems to be solved. So, is it possible for us as a nation to treat this pandemic like a slingshot? To perceive the education issues we face right now as a means to be pulled back just a little bit so we can clearly see the systemic problem that has been going on for years, then to fix it and come back better than ever? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ayunda Damai Fatmarani from Squash Girl Surabaya, speaking on the topic maximizing the potential of innovative blended online and offline learning for greater education access in the post-pandemic era. Allow me to illustrate two scenarios for you. First, there lives a child from a rural village. Let's call this child Chandra. In Chandra's village, education that is supposed to be a basic right turns into a huge privilege only for those who can afford it. There are a lot of hurdles that Chandra must overcome in order to learn at school. For instance, economic problem in his family, lack of teacher, lack of higher education, and inadequate learning facilities. In this situation, it is not rare for Chandra or his friends to be child workers in hopes to better the lives of their families. Chandra represents the lives of 157,000 of students in Indonesia from the 2019 to 2020 academic year who dropped out of school due to the inequality in education access, according to the Indonesian Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology. For students who lives in a rural area, educational problems like this could easily stem into other child rights violation issues, like child worker, child marriage, and much more. Second scenario. There lives a child from a big city this time. Let's call her Kayla. Kayla comes from an economically stable family that can afford school tuition. No matter what, no matter if there's any global pandemic or any other issues, it has been made sure that every day Kayla can go to school in one way or another. Now, you might think that because this child is privileged, then it must mean that she always learns effectively, right? Unfortunately, it does not work like that. Based on the World Bank statement in 2020, that just because most students in Indonesia go to school every day, it does not mean that they learn every day. So going to school is not the same as learning. The research from the World Bank stated that children in Indonesia, even though on average receive 12.4 years of education, their learning process only happens around 7.8 years. That is at least 4 to 5 years of wasted opportunities that are supposed to be used to develop a child's skills. Instead, they experience an education system that forces them to study materials that are not essentials for the child's current needs or for who they want to be in the future. These are two different situations and two very different kind of problems. Yet they are both happening right now as a result of how our current education system failed to be accessible for every child's needs. In this case, accessibility is not only based on geographical and socioeconomic conditions, but also based on personal abilities, competencies, and interests. Now, the pandemic has introduced us to online learning. While 100% of online learning might not be able to solve those problems, using blended learning approach instead can help us to solve it in the years to come. But what is blended learning exactly? As the name suggests, blended learning is an educational approach that combines online digital learning with traditional offline learning. Therefore, with a blended learning approach, it does not require the students nor the teachers to be present at school all the time. Now, why blended learning compared to other educational approaches? With that, I want to remind you that school is not the main source of information and knowledge anymore for students in the 21st century. The internet replaced that. But at the same time, the internet by itself cannot provide the guidance needed for students to grow and learn properly, unlike school. Blended learning integrates the best of these two worlds. Through blended learning, students may have opportunities during the online session to do a self-led learning, allowing them to learn essential materials and to control the learning path, the learning place, and learning pace based on their own abilities. During the offline session, the teacher may act as a guide to help them face the challenges and difficulties in learning. Hence, we can say that blended learning is very context dependent and highly personalized for children with any kind of situation. For students like Chandra, blended learning may help them to learn from high quality educational resources that might have not been available for them in the past. At the same time, it significantly reduces the amount of pressure from the small quantity of teachers. This allows them to focus on giving the students the necessary guidance and child-friendly learning spaces to improve students' competencies. For a student like Kayla, blended learning can further personalize their competencies attainment. Students may have a certain degree of control over what they want to learn and how they want to learn it. This way, there will not be any years of wasted opportunities like there's a research from World Bank stated. But as I have said before, internet connection is still a problem that a lot of students face during online learning, especially in rural areas. This is why the optimization of blended learning will heavily correlate with the internet and technology equality. The implementation of blended learning will give the government a reason to accelerate the internet and technological access, and vice versa. The internet and technology equality will then optimize the positive impacts of blended learning approach. For teachers and parents, what can they do to support blended learning? The answer is simple. Collaborate, communicate, and differentiate, as stated by authors Wendy Morosky and Sally Spencer in their book. Collaborate with other teachers or parents to create engaging offline and online activities as well as a supportive learning environment for children. Have a clear two-way communication to better understand students' needs and wants, and differentiate every student's learning process, because what might work for one student might not work the same for another. This concludes to the fact that blended learning can be a solution to the educational access problem in the post-pandemic era by giving the students a chance to manage their own learning journey. Because most importantly, through this blended learning system, education will not have to be a huge privilege that only a small number of people can have, nor an overly standardized system that would just give students all the needless burdens. Instead, for children, education can be a basic component of their lives that can humanize and empower them. And as Jack Fresco said, when education and resources are available to all without a price tag, there will be no limit to the human potential. Thank you.